not that he knows not is a fool. Stay away from him. He who knows not and knows that he knows not is a child. Teach him. He who knows and knows not that he knows is asleep. Wake him. He who knows and knows that he knows is a wise person. Follow him. Wisdom is the human quality which enables the planning and successful achievement of a desired goal. It's expressed as a technical skill, practical instruction, even in political and life affairs. The Bible tells us the value of wisdom is that wisdom is priceless. Wisdom leads to life. Wisdom brings prosperity. Wisdom gives security. And wisdom touches the whole person. Wisdom results in the right action, and wisdom results in watchfulness. If you're taking your notes, write this down, is that faith wins battles. Wisdom builds homes.
Oh.
The scripture says in Proverbs that wisdom has built her home. The wisdom has 7 pillars. In Hebrews chapter 11 it talks about faith conquering mountains. Faith conquering
Your fate. Motherfuckers. Let's see what my man say.
Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate.
Fate. That's my guy. Look at him. Look at him dropping that wisdom on him. That wisdom on him. Hey, that wisdom
this
on
is the big
him.
island.
Hey, that wisdom on him. Hey, get that wisdom on him. Hey, get that wisdom on him. Hey, get a little wisdom on him. Wisdom on him. Wisdom on him.
We
Wisdom.
are Kona.
Get a little wisdom on him. Wisdom on him. Get a little wisdom on him. Get a little wisdom. Get a little wisdom. Get a little wisdom on him. Hey,
Oh, sweet. Look at that.
and get down with me. You feel me?
Wow, the Big Island. Such a beautiful place. I'm here for the lobby conference, which is totally off the record, so I can't share more about that. One thing I've been thinking a lot about is how emotions affect our decisions. Wait a second, aren't decisions supposed to be separate from emotions? Researcher Antonio Damasio actually found out that there are patients who have neurological problems.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Expansion Pack. I am your host. Let's get some music in here. Dan F. Man, here on DGTA TV. And we back again for another episode. Glad y'all could join me. Make sure I got all my turn my music up. Make sure I got all my chats up. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot. So today we're going to be exploring some more ancient wisdom. We're going to go back into that spirit science again from where we left off. If you wasn't watching it with us, then this will be new to you. If you were, then just keep on riding along with us. So the reason why I'm able to watch this without no hesitation, just on my own personal, is because this stuff that we talking about in spirit science, or the stuff that they're talking about in spirit science, it's not new. It's not new. It's like, all right, let's say your favorite Christmas or church, let's say your favorite church song. If you heard it on the radio outside of church, it'd still be like the same song, but somebody just put their own spin on it. That's all this wisdom is been passed down through everybody in the world. Let's say internationally, the teachings have been passed down from generation to generation, and the inner teachings may not reach it all the way out to regular people or people that's not inside of or deeply immersed in that realm, but the teachings have reached all of us. So this ain't new information. This is stuff you can go look at yourself. So let's go ahead, go into it. Into it. Oh man, hold on, make sure that stay there. Nope. All right, cool. Let me go back. Hold on, y'all. Let me just fix this for a second. All right, there we go. Now we good. Even though my music went away. Or maybe it was just low. Alright, let's rock. Let's see where we was at. We got the oldest up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. Seen that all of them? Yeah. Alright, that's protection. We seen that. Hidden code of the matrix. Yep, seen that. And we should be here. Alright, let's rock out, y'all. Switch over to the live. Well, I don't even think I fixed the live scene for y'all. Let me fix the live scene while y'all just watch. Pause this music here. Alright, let's go.
We know the 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. It's the geometry of a square. We have this prevalent system of 4 all over our world. We have 4 states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. We have 4 seasons. Winter is earth, spring is air, summer is water, and autumn is fire. We have 4 directions. We have 4 ways of taking in energy: food, water, oxygen, and prana. We have 4 directions on the Native American medicine wheel. Also, we have the Mayan Hunab Ku, as well as the dream spell calendar. This system is all over the ancient past in symbolism hidden in different cultures. Our reality can be divided in a number of ways that will yield alternative perspectives of what is happening all around you. If you look at everything from a perspective of 1, which is unity, you're looking at the full encompassment of everything. You're looking at the source field. There are no dualities. Everything is 1. If you look through 2, you see duality. You're looking at the male and the female of reality, the structured and the creative and inspiration. If you look through 3, you see a trinity: mind, body, spirit, male, female, child, up, down, middle, black, white, gray, or even little things like 111 or 333 on your clock. If you look through 4, you see the 4 elements. They are the physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, or perhaps 1111 on your clock. We can continue. 5 is the pentacle as well as the dodecahedron. 6 is the vector equilibrium, or cuboctahedron, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Do you see how each geometry is connected to a different energy? There's a lot of connections here that we can make to start seeing things bigger. Each point on the flower of life is 1, and when you connect them, the geometries expand. 2 is the trion ray. 3 is a trinity, a triangle. 4 in the flower of life is a vesica Pisces, but it can also be a square. As these expand, they grow in dimension as well. 5 is a pentagon, and 6 is a hexagon. Each of these numbers relate to our dimensions as well. Dimensions and densities are very interconnected.
I'm gonna say, where's the extra music I'm hearing coming from?
Although they are not the same.
Alright.
Dimensions go like this. 1 is 1 dot. That's unity, or dimension 0. Then 2 is a line. That's duality. 3 dots is a triangle, so you get a flat plane, a 2-dimensional shape. 4 dots is a tetrahedron, giving you depth, bringing you to the 3rd dimension. There's no real way of drawing a 4th dimensional object in a 2-dimensional video, but it's believed that they're as amazing as something like this in actual manifestation. You might notice that we're really only looking at up to 6 geometries. This is because as we're evolving, we're moving from a 3rd dimensional awareness to a 5th dimensional awareness. So these are the ones that we need to understand. these geometries also work in tandem with the chakras. Everything is connected. So we have the 4 elements down, which means there are 2 more geometries to look at. Well, actually 3, but the Merkaba is a whole video on its own. The 5th geometry is the dodecahedron, which I associate to being the life geometry. Not creating life itself, but the expression of consciousness through the other 4 elements. Think of it like your awareness of each of the other elements. The awareness of your physical manifestation, the awareness of your emotional self, your mental self, and the realization and awareness of your spiritual self as well. We have 5 Platonic geometries that form everything in creation, but we don't have a hexagonal shape. If we look at the flower of life, we see that its ultimate basic form is in a 6-pointed shape, called a hexagon. Want to see where else hexagons form in life?
Hey. Everywhere. Tell them, say, hey, then say. Everywhere.
We have all of these hexagons, and yet there is no Platonic solid that is formed with a hexagon. So what gives? Well, I want to introduce the vector equilibrium, which was coined by Buckminster Fuller. It is actually formed from 3 two-dimensional hexagons that swivel around each other, and its basic shapes that make it up are an equilateral triangle and the square. These are the 2 smallest shapes that you can make with straight lines, and together they balance at each other's corners to create the perfect shape.
Let me see.
Why is it the perfect shape? Well, amazing physicist of the future, Nassim Haramein, has put together a... Together they balance and its basic actually formed. I want to introduce the vector equilibrium, which was coined by Buckminster Fuller. It is actually formed from 3 two-dimensional hexagons that swivel around each other, and its basic shapes that make it up are an equilateral triangle and the square. These are the 2 smallest shapes that you can make with straight lines, and together they balance at each other's corners to create the perfect shape. Why is it the perfect shape? Well, amazing physicist of the future, Nassim Haramein, has put together a movie called Black Hole that explains this. The reason is that every single line which is connected in this shape is the same distance away from every other point, including the very center of the shape itself. Not even the Platonic solids have that definition, which also makes this the most stable shape and polyhedron, and the basis of the 3-dimensional flower of life. Finally, the only reason it's not a Platonic solid is because it has both squares and triangles within it. Platonic solids are Platonic because each face is the same, which makes me think that other shapes must exist that are balanced between 2 different shapes as well, and construct everything in the universe. To really learn more, check out Black Hole by Nassim Haramein. He actually has done a lot of videos out there which explains his theories and understandings of physics, and he's really amazing to listen to. His latest movie, Black Hole, is a good explanation of everything in just 1 hour, so we do recommend it the most. Before we end this video, I want to connect the final dots in the array to show you how all of these geometries are connected to life, and in turn, you. A seed in the ground sprouts up into a large tree. The tree blossoms a flower. The flower produces a fruit, and the fruit contains the seed. This is the natural progression of the cycle of life through consciousness on Earth. So let's translate that to geometry and see what happens. The seed of life sprouts the tree of life. The tree blossoms the flower of life. The flower produces the fruit of life. And the fruit of life contains the seed of life. In human evolution, I feel that the human race is still but a seed, an embryo, but about to expand into the tree of life. We're evolving consciously, and we're still stuck on the ground, stuck in the dirt, but not for long. Check out this painting I found on DeviantArt by the brilliant artist Adrian Kenyon. This is his depiction of the miraculous conception of creation and human history. It starts at unity, a sphere. The caduceus is seen coming from it, duality, then a trinity. Then, as the 4 elements come into manifestation, we get physical reality, crystals form, and water layers over top of it. All of these previous elements were conscious of their own, but now biological life begins to develop in the water and crawl onto land. We go through a few stages of evolution. Dinosaurs, basic mammals, and then humans show up. There's a lot of ideas as to where we came from, and we won't get into this now. Adam and Eve happens, the Buddha becomes enlightened underneath the Bodhi tree, and then something shifts. From this point to here is where we are now. Disconnected from our own natural spiral, paving over the ground, killing people for telling us that being materialistic can heed nothing good. Then come the world wars, and the world falls into chaos. And then something shifts again. From the destroyed world, another seed grows. We switch into a different reality. It starts out small. From out of the chaos, a tiny new earth emerges and grows larger. This is the new earth, a new realm of light and purity that we were meant to be connected with all along. The planet continues to evolve. Here exist angels, archangels, and multidimensional hypercubes. The planet becomes more crystalline over time. The last part of the spiral is the 7th dimension and the realm of God, an infinite number of multiverses dividing like cells in an embryo, an ultimate omnipresence, as everything that is contained in all of these multiverses is a part of God's consciousness. A snake biting its own tail, an Ouroboros, is the symbol of cyclic rebirth, like the phoenix. All of the information contained in the 7th dimension is held here like a nest for the next cosmic egg. There are a few other ideas that come to mind about this that I want to share as well. First, look at the shape of it as a whole. It's the Trion Ray, the geometry of DNA and light that we've been looking at before. If you line that up with the chakras, you can see how we go from a super dense space up to the highest frequency, until we once again connect with the same source that we were originally connected to. Doesn't that look familiar on the Flower of Life? If these theories about the Flower of Life are true, then that means this entire experience of human history and ascension and growth and evolution is just one wave of energy from one point to another on an infinite universe of possibilities. Each point is the supreme awareness of some aspect of the God Source consciousness field, and the energy that moves between it is the vibrations and waves of energy that we are experiencing, called the electromagnetic field. As much smaller fractals of the same source energy have experiences through these waves. This image also doesn't account for the number of parallel realities that we could experience at this point. If the Flower of Life expands in these directions, then this is just one direction. Maybe instead of total destruction, which is what this image depicts, instead we make our first ET contact on this spiral and join our galactic family. On this wave, maybe something else happens. Like we start getting superpowers, like in Heroes or something. Maybe all of that can happen right here too. Anything is possible. Such discussion is the nature of this show. You don't have to believe any of this. The power of it lies not in the reality, but the discussion itself. I was told once that art would change the world. I didn't know what that meant for a really long time, but now I think I understand. Art is the expression of any energy, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Whether it's male or female, it is the expression of consciousness. By taking our art to the next level and finding value in what we like to express, and what we want to see expressed, we begin to share and express more of our own truth, and our love, and our freedom. That is the nature of the transformation on this earth, as well as the desire to do and create. The artist has put together a short explanation as well as a long 30-page detailed version of what this image truly means, at least to him. And if you want to go deeper, there are links in the comments to his website and DeviantArt page. We're also featuring a lot of new art on the Spirit Science print shop, which we highly recommend checking out as well. Namaste everyone, see you next time.
My guys, I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Jimmy D. Alright, let's get the next and the next. And y'all can go check out this channel yourself if y'all would like to subscribe yourself. The name of it is Spirit Science, just like I'm saying it. Alright. What a majestic universe we live in, that the primordial elements of the stars dance their way into such intricate consciousness to the tune of sacred geometry and the rhythm of the heart. Star Sailor. You know what time it is? Let go, let go. Hey, turn up. Say. Yeah. Alright.
Everything is connected, and each and every topic in Spirit Science is connected too, perhaps in a deeper way than any of us might know. In a nutshell, that's really what Spirit Science is about. We're making connections. connections between our understanding of reality, and ideas about the way that things work on a physical, quantum, metaphysical, spiritual, and all manner of ways. If we find that things are not connected, we can add new points to find the connections. The way that science is hoping that finding the Higgs boson will bridge some gaps between the standard model of physics and understand other things like consciousness and gravity. Adding new connections like sacred geometry do just that. Sacred geometry shows us how biological systems interact with each other in nature, and we can copy it to become more in tune with nature and everything, and most importantly, ourselves. All of these ideas are connected. We just have to look at the patterns as to how. We can fractal this idea larger and larger. Just as an animal exists as a part of the ecosystem that it's connected to, so too do we have a connection with our planet in a way that is almost cosmic in nature. In learning to recognize the patterns that exist, such as the trinity between the life-giving sun, Mother Earth, and you, we can learn to understand ourselves in a very powerful way. If you get one thing out of this series, I would hope that I would be able to inspire you to look inward and to look at yourself and the events in your life in a new way, in looking deeper at the world all around you. It's important to let go of ideas that no longer serve you. The realization that I have come to is that all of us, every single person on this planet, are cosmic beings of life and light in the universe. We share a space with all of the energy of infinity, and it's about acknowledging that energy and tuning yourself into it. You are a receiver for cosmic information. Science now shows that we are all made of stardust, the remnants of exploding stars. We have developed our own unique consciousness based on our previous geometry. If our consciousness came from a star, then what's to say that that star and the rest of the universe doesn't also have its own unique consciousness, even if it's not entirely understood yet? On that note, I want to share a short video with you now by performance philosopher Jason Silva about what it means to understand and connect the dots.
To understand is to perceive patterns. Now, of course, what this means is that true comprehension comes when the dots are revealed and you get Stephen Johnson's long view and you see the big picture. There's this idea about patterns, recurring patterns across different scales of reality. You know, Paul Stamets talks about the mycelial archetype and how the information sharing systems that comprise the internet look exactly like computer models of dark matter in the universe, look exactly like the neurons in a brain. They all share the same intertwined patterns, recurring patterns across different scales of reality. You know, Paul Stamets talks about the mycelial archetype and how the information sharing systems that comprise the internet look exactly like computer models of dark matter in the universe, look exactly like the neurons in a brain. They all share the same intertwinkled filamental structure. It's the rise of networkism as big data advocates talk about how man-made systems are looking exactly like natural systems. The more we can measure, the more we can visualize, the more it expands our consciousness by seeing these recurring patterns across scales of reality. It blows my mind, and I think that technology increasingly is becoming an expander of human consciousness. It extends our thought, reach, and vision, and revealing so much more. It's like, whereas once I was blind, now I can see. Jeffrey West from the Santa Fe Institute is telling us that cities are really like organisms. You know, alleys are like capillaries. How is it possible that a man-made artificial technological system is behaving like a natural system? The more efficient it becomes, the more it's starting to look like nature. Really interesting, weird stuff. You know, but it makes me optimistic. It's like when Stephen Johnson says, look, if we can understand all this stuff, we can, I mean, anything becomes possible, right? It's the adjacent possible, standing as a sort of shadow future, a map of all the ways the present can reinvent itself. It's beautiful stuff.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's take this one step deeper because I know there's one aspect about this that a lot of people are hesitant about. It's the use of this word, spirit, in conjunction with this word, science. Many people feel that these words need to be kept separate, although I will share that in my experiences, I've learned that magic can happen when powerful energies come together. In fact, it's the very nature of physics and our own sun. Our sun is a fusion reactor, which provides all of the energy and life for the entire planet, whereas fission, on the other hand, has been used to blow up and demolish entire cities. So, which do you really prefer? I find it really interesting too, as the discussion of God has been the most sought discussion of our evolution and history for thousands of years. Ideas like God, source, spirit, and essence are all ideas that can be used to expand our perception of everything in the universe to a broader, more encompassing understanding. Less of a creator-god caricature than it's typically perceived as. If you look deep, beyond all of the dogma of any religion, and yes, there's lots of dogma, and really get in tune with the ideas themselves, God, or source, has always been described as the creation force of the universe itself. The creation force of reality, the driving life essence that moves through everything. In modern science, we pretend that this is not the question that we're asking, but it really is. We can see scientifically that everything in reality is vibrating waves of light, and we can look to our ancient past to see that pretty much everyone says that the light itself is the creation force. It's not just in the Bible that the light came first. Pretty much every ancient culture believed this, from the Mayans to the Egyptians. We're coming full circle. The leading theories and ideas about the universe now depict how the entire reality is like a giant living organism that grows and evolves and manifests new things. The Big Bang is the breath of source energy from which everything manifested. All of the parameters for the structures of the universe were defined within the first nanoseconds of the Big Bang. It wasn't random, there was a fundamental pattern at the core of that creation. It was geometric in nature. The creative expression of the universe manifests as our reality that we are a part of, and we too are creators within that creation. Free to create whatever we want, limited only by our imaginations and ability to spill our thoughts over from our minds and into the physical world. Okay, we're wrapping it up now, so here's the spirit science theory. Is it possible that what spirit or God is actually this hierarchy of awareness, of consciousness, as it manifests at different levels of existence through the universe? Consciousness itself is not this extrapolated aspect of the universe that we just so happen to inhabit, nor is it only subject to exist through biological life, but rather, the whole of the universe itself is conscious, and that is how it exists in the first place. If the sun provides the life essence for the planet, then that energy must be alive in some sense of the word, though scientifically we're having trouble comprehending it. This idea basically says that just as a blood cell is one conscious being that coexists within your body as a part of it, so too are we just one blood cell to our planet, Mother Earth, who is a conscious being, and she is completely aware of you in every which way, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. You're a part of her. You're part of her system. Do you not feel it when your stomach hurts or when you scrape your arm? Especially since we feed ourselves with lots of junk that we know isn't good for us. We're creating hurt, separation, and war on this planet, and she in turn is hurting too. And by healing ourselves, we're healing her. The next revelation is that creation and evolution are two sides of the same coin. The creation force itself is consciousness, and evolution is the change that the creation experiences as it continues to create more, as its understanding grows. This is demonstrated through the life and death of a star, or the life and death of a cell, especially if death isn't the end, but a recreation, a transition of energy into a new state of being. That would make sense, especially when we consider how we came from exploding stars. In Fibonacci, we continually add the current number to the previous in order to expand the spiral and continue growing. What we're doing now is taking our modern understanding of the world and the universe and adding all of our ancient understanding to it. The ancients told us that God existed within, and the keys to the universe lie in our hearts. Jesus and Buddha taught that through love, we can become the gods that we truly are. And now it's time to step into that. As we move forward into the future, the time has come to reconnect with ourselves and step into divine revelation through truth, love, and oneness.
That's my guys. Was that the end? Oh, we just got credits now. Yeah, it's just the credits. Y'all can't hear this music, but I got music playing in my ears. Hey, 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 hey. Let's see what this one is. Let's skip this one for a second. There we go.
Big ideas.
Pursuit of knowledge, we must be free to follow wherever that search may lead us. If we value the pursuit of knowledge, we must be free to follow wherever that search may lead us. The free mind is not a barking dog to be tethered on a 10-foot chain. Back in the late 1700s, early 1800s time period, there was a social movement liberating the modern world from the reign of control that religion and superstition had on the people. Essentially, after a dark modern world from the reign of control, 1700s, early 1800s time period, there was a social movement liberating the modern world from the reign of control that religion and superstition had on the people. Essentially, after our darkest part on the precession of the equinox, we were really beginning to wake up. Started making new inventions that were rapidly changing the world. The industrial era was beginning. Because of this, we began to see that maybe religion as an answer was not in our best interest, and so the movement happened. We turned to science instead to answer our questions about the universe. The only problem with this was that we grouped in many things with superstition that we probably shouldn't have. Things like consciousness, intuition, human connection, paranormal phenomenon. All of it went right out the door with superstition, when in fact we've proven these things today to be real. So after 200 years of just going with the same idea about what's classified as superstition and what's okay to talk about, mainstream science is still going with the assumption that consciousness is just a part of the brain. They don't know how it works, they don't have a single rational explanation for it, but they keep on believing it. Why? Well, when we tossed superstition out of the door, even talking about it became taboo. It's just not done. Literally, the reason that it's tough talking about this stuff in the mainstream scientific community is because that's just the way science has been for 200 years. They won't have any of it, even though there are scientific institutions that prove that theory wrong. The field of noetics and the works of biologist Rupert Sheldrake and his colleagues have more than proven mass consciousness exists and is definitely not a part of the brain. Now, no disrespect to the scientific community, but that assumption that we're still holding on to has not gotten us anywhere. It's time we begin to question the decisions of our ancestors, because many of the things that we've been led to believe to be true simply is not. I'm not saying blindly accept all of the new stuff that's coming out nowadays, but we should at least put it on the table and be able to discuss it as a global community. An apocalypse is a disclosure of something hidden from the majority of mankind in an era dominated by falsehood and misconception. If you haven't seen Lesson 10 already, you should probably watch that one first. This lesson builds on what we covered last time, the phi ratio in particular. Today, we're going to be looking at another way that humans grow through phi. Instead of looking at phi inside the body, we're going to be looking at phi outside the body, and what it means for us in this pivotal point in human history. One other thing before we get this rolling. I want to give an overview about what sacred geometry really is. Sacred geometry is the geometry of consciousness. It revolves around the idea that all consciousness, including human, is solely based on sacred geometry. Because it is, we can begin to see and understand where we have come from, where we are now, and where we're going. Do you remember the fruit of life? This is the basis of all 13 informational systems that come out of the flower of life, the creation pattern of everything. The first system created the platonic solids, which created structure throughout the universe. The second system was the basis of how vibration, sound, harmonics, music, and matter are all interrelated in all of creation. Today, we will look at the third system. The fruit of life will reveal itself in the process. We'll call this system the circles and squares of human consciousness. It is what the Chinese called circling the square and squaring the circle.
There you go. Y'all know what time it is. Sing it with me now. Oh.
Remember when we discussed the platonic solids in Lesson 6? I explained that there are 5 shapes from which all shapes and matter in existence come from and form into. I showed you that all of them will sit perfectly within a sphere, each with every corner touching the sphere perfectly. Well, there's one other shape that can do that. It's a characteristic that only one of the platonic solids have, making it special. It is the cube, which you can put every single platonic solid inside, and an edge or point will touch the inside of the cube perfectly. Through truncating the cube in different ways, you can create all of the other shapes. Because of this characteristic, it essentially means that the cube is like the father of create all of the other shapes. Because of this Through truncating the cube in different ways, you can create all of the other shapes. Because of this characteristic, it essentially means that the cube is like the father of all shapes. It is a male form. And the sphere is the mother of all shapes. It is a female form. All levels of consciousness in the universe are integrated by a single image in sacred geometry. It is the key to space, time, and dimension, as well as consciousness itself. Each level is a geometric image or lens that spirit looks through to see the one reality, resulting in a completely different experience. In the case of humans, this image is the circle and square. This is what Leonardo da Vinci was doing when he drew this drawing, and I'm going to show you what this circle and square combination mean. If you put a circle inside a square perfectly, and then continue to put another circle and square, each with the same diameter, 1 radius away on all sides, going outwards, you get a drawing that looks like this. You'll notice that with the first circle and square, they fit perfectly within the other. This also happens with the second circle and square. However, then the squares begin penetrating circles. The male form begins interacting with the female form. Why is this important? Well, the circles and squares begin to equate the phi ratio. See, when the circumference of a circle and the perimeter of the square are equal, this equates the phi ratio. So as you can see on this diagram, on the fourth square and the fifth circle, it begins to create the phi ratio. It's close, but not perfect. It's only a 0.6 difference. I'm measuring in radii, by the way. The inner circle has a radius of 1, so it's 2 radii across. The next is 4, and then 6, 8, 10, and so on. Anyways, so the one we just looked at makes a close phi ratio, and then it moves out of sync, staying out of sync for a bit, and then bam! Again, it moves into yet another phi ratio. This time, the difference is only 0.52, even closer to perfection than before. This will continue on forever. If you were to continue this drawing outwards to infinity, each time it would go into sync, drop out of sync for a few circles and squares, but then eventually hit phi again closer than it did the last time. Right now, there are 3 primary levels of consciousness that we are going to be talking about. They are essentially who we were, who we are, and who we will be. We'll call it the first, second, and third, so that it's easy to understand what we're talking about. The ancient Egyptians were very concerned with these 3 levels as well, and much of their culture was based on this information. Each of these levels has their own geometric lens too, which look like this. We'll come back to these soon. This is the first level of consciousness, and this is the third. We are on neither of these 2 phi levels on this circle and square chart. Where we are, the second level of consciousness, is here. We are on the 5th square relative to the 6th circle. For quite a while now, I've been saying that we're at a disharmonic level, and it's something that we're passing through as a species. Now you begin to see the bigger picture of what I meant. The reason it's disharmonic is because it does not equate a phi ratio, not even close. Disharmonic levels are important because they bridge a gap between the divine, pure levels. However, when a species is here, it has to get in and get out as fast as possible, or else they will destroy themselves and everything around them incredibly quickly. You can see this happening all around the world today. They will destroy themselves. However, when a species is here, it has to get in and get out as fast as possible, or else they will destroy themselves and everything around them incredibly quickly. You can see this happening all around the world today because we're at the very end of it and everything is crashing down on us. We've discussed this all before, notably in the intros of lesson 1 and 2. So the reason that we're on this circle and square combination and not the 6th square relative to some other circle is because of this. If you take the square and rotate it 45 degrees, it actually creates a bridge. It connects us from 2 harmonic levels of being. We're moving from one state of being to the other, this time even closer to source. This is a very exciting time for us. Oh, let me show you this too. This is how the Great Pyramid is set up. This chamber here is called the King's Chamber. If you cut the Great Pyramid horizontally at the King's Chamber, which was the main initiation chamber, and rotate the top half 45 degrees, it makes the exact same image as our level of consciousness. There's a reason for that. The Great Pyramid is the key instrument in allowing humans to reach the 3rd level of consciousness, both as a species and individually. In fact, that's part of the reason why the Great Pyramids were created in the first place. Let's talk more about these levels though. So what Leonardo was drawing was actually the 1st level of consciousness. See how he hid lines in this drawing? If you complete this grid, it creates an 8x8 grid. This is the same 64 square grid found on the 1st level. Measuring in radii, this grid is 8x8. However, the circle has 10 radii across, so we'll call this 1st level an 8x10. This is where we were. According to Thoth, an Ascended Master who has provided much of this information with us, the 1st level is the first time self-aware consciousness began. The 2nd level has 10 squares across the large square, and a 12 radii circle, so we'll call it a 10x12. This is where we are now. This level is the 3rd level, which is also called Christ consciousness. It is a 14x18. Now, there's always a reason for everything in sacred geometry. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens without a reason. Everything is connected. Out of the whole spectrum of possibilities, why did self-aware human consciousness begin when the 4th square went into harmony with the 5th circle? Well, let's overlay the fruit of life over our 1st level for a second. Look at that! It exactly fits the 4th square and 5th circle perfectly. Do you see the perfection of life? The fruit of life pattern was hidden beneath this pattern all along. They're precisely superimposed over the other. In a right brain way, this is how to explain why consciousness first became self-aware between the 4th square and 5th circle. This sacred image was part of the pattern. The fruit of life was completed at the precise moment that the phi ratio first appeared, and when phi appeared, consciousness had a way to manifest in a new way. Throughout time, many scholars have tried to figure out the secret meaning behind what Leonardo meant with the Vitruvian Man drawing. He was showing us human consciousness. This is where we were, the 1st level. There is a man who did draw our level though. Da Vinci was studying the works of a man named Vitruvius, who lived 1400 years before Da Vinci, hence the name Vitruvian Man. Vitruvius actually drew his own drawing of consciousness as well, and this is what it looked like. The circle and squares in this one are hidden, less obvious than the Da Vinci drawing. Regardless, they're there, and this is the current circle and square combination around our bodies. This drawing also contains the exact proportions of the Merkaba, which is an important energy system outside of the body, similar to how chakras are an energy system inside the body. This image also contains the diamond that perfectly contains the man from head to feet. This is the same image we saw in the consciousness chart, as well as the Great Pyramid. Further proof that this was what Vitruvius was demonstrating to us when he created this image. So here we have drawings of the first two levels of consciousness. From what I know, there is no drawing of a third. If there is, it's sealed up, locked away somewhere, and is probably one of the most sacred drawings in existence. Alright, I know talking about geometry all the time can be a little daunting. So many circles and ratios and everything. If this is something you want to learn more about, I am providing the Flower of Life books and PDFs in the comments. This information is found at the very beginning of Volume 2, and much, much more. I could probably do 4 or 5 lessons about the geometries of the human body and still not run out of things to talk about. But it's there for you if you want to learn more now. For the last portion of today's lesson, we're going to talk about some recent findings in modern science. As we just saw in the geometry, we are currently in a disharmonic state of being, but we are just about done with it. In doing so, we are moving into a new state of being. We are transferring from the second level of consciousness to the third, also called Christ consciousness. If we look at evolution in Earth's history, we always seem to make random jumps. There are always missing links in the evolutionary chain. Scientists say that we just haven't found all the fossils, and creationists say that God did it, and therefore it's part of some divine plan. But looking at what we just learned about consciousness, does it not make sense that evolution and creationism are just two sides of the same coin?
Right.
Consciousness moves through different states of being, constantly moving closer and closer to divinity, to Phi. Every time it reaches a new stage, it makes a rapid biological change into something new, like what we're doing now. This is what the ancient Egyptians called resurrection, which we mentioned in Lesson 7. So, if we're really going through an evolution of consciousness, what's happening inside of us? Surely, this would mean that there are also biological changes happening to us at our core level, right? Does modern science see any big changes that they're afraid to tell the general public because they think it will cause a panic? Short answer, yes. Long answer, we are changing. Right now, as you're watching this, your DNA is mutating. See, in the last few months, modern medicine has finally accepted publicly that a child was born with 3 DNA strands rather than 2. In a simplified way of seeing it, we are adding an entirely new strand to our DNA, going from a double helix to a triple helix. This wasn't discovered recently though. In fact, scientists have been studying this for almost 10 to 20 years now. Several years ago in New Mexico, there was a convention of geneticists from all over the world with the main topic of discussion being DNA mutations. Scientists acknowledge that we are changing, but the end result, they do not know. Through sacred geometry, we begin to actually see where we could be going. With 12 strands activated, you have 10 times as much information available to you than you do with just 2 strands, as we do now. Not only that, but the 12 strands work in sync with the 12 chakras, providing an immense amount of energy into the body. We are about to become super beings, enabling us to understand and do things that currently seem paranormal, bizarre, or downright impossible. From the article, The Bigger Picture by Suzanne Thorpe Clarke, we are being changed physically from carbon-based beings to crystalline-based beings. This is interesting because I've actually heard this from various channelings now, ascension and transformation into crystalline at our core. First the psychics were telling us this, and now we have science backing it up. What we know for sure is that we are going through a shift. Today, I want to close with this. In almost every ancient text and Bible, it speaks about a great shift and awakening. The Bible speaks about the coming of Christ. This is interesting actually, because Christ is the name of the third level of consciousness. I didn't just make that up. We are moving into Christ consciousness, the name of the third level of consciousness. I didn't just make that up. We are moving into Christ consciousness, which means not that Jesus is going to show up with a big "Hey!" but we are actually moving into the level of conscious understanding that Jesus had. It is the coming of Christ through the human species. Now who's pumped for 2012?
Alright, let me get our next video up in here. Hold on. In this game.
Therapy has always been such a scary idea to me because I simply did not know where to get started. I didn't know how to find my person. I did not know where to go until BetterHelp came in and
In part 1, we talked about the activation of our DNA, and this is a concept that is not entirely understood yet. This is something that is happening right now. It's not something that will happen all of a sudden and that you have to wait for. This is something that you and I get to activate by becoming more in tune and aware of ourselves. If we're just sitting around saying, goodness, I'm stoked for my DNA to activate, but in the meantime, I'm going to keep eating at McDonald's and keep watching TV for 4 hours a day and keep on being a jerk to people I don't like, then don't expect yourself to experience any profound shifts. The higher strands of your DNA will bring you more in tune with yourself, for they are you, and you have to be the one to choose the path of awareness and unity. So higher strands of DNA, what does this really mean? The portions of the DNA chain that science has presently identified as the double helix represents only the surface portions of the chemical, elemental, and electrical components of the active DNA strands. Science has yet to understand the multidimensional spectra of DNA manifestation, though we are beginning to remember. The human DNA imprint will always appear from external analysis as a two-strand double helix configuration in 3 dimensions. What is not understood is that within the double helix there are, and will be progressively more, additional double helix strands which fuse together. As our understanding evolves into the multidimensional spectra, the understanding of the structure and function of DNA will progressively advance. A team of Russian researchers working with DNA started a project to progressively learn more about DNA by combining forces with linguists, and have dived into the unknown of the 90% of junk DNA which we currently embody. Their findings are evolutionary. According to them, our DNA is not only responsible for the construction of our body, but is also used as data storage and in communication. They learned that the 90% of DNA follows the same rules as all of our human language. The way that sentences, paragraphs, and chapters work in a book is more about DNA by combining forces with linguists, and have dived into the unknown of the 90% of junk DNA which we currently embody. Their findings are evolutionary. According to them, our DNA is not only responsible for the construction of our body, but is also used as data storage and in communication. They learned that the 90% of DNA follows the same rules as all of our human language. The way that sentences, paragraphs, and chapters work in a book is the same way that our DNA works. This is the first double helix strand, the one that Western science looks at, which is basically like a sentence of DNA. However, if you step back and see the bigger picture, you begin to see the paragraph. Stepping back further and you see the chapter, and so on. These larger and larger strands span through the different frequencies of reality, the different dimensions, which makes them harder to find in our modern science. Western science, instead of looking at DNA like this, we're cutting out pieces of DNA from here and adding them over here, which is similar to picking out words in certain sentences and putting them with other words in other sentences to see if they fit together and can make a new energy, a new idea. This is the nature of our junk DNA, of which Western science just didn't understand for the longest of times. The DNA isn't junk, it's just misunderstood, and also not as used right now because of our dense level of consciousness. However, we are beginning to activate and reawaken our DNA through our ever-expanding consciousness and our desire to know more. The very awareness of this DNA is what is activating it, awareness of our higher selves and our connection to the all and the interconnectedness to each other. We are directly connected to the earth as well and exist as a part of it, kind of like a child in its mother's womb. If anything happens to the mother, it creates an energetic imprint that affects the child. The earth is our mother, hence the name Mother Earth. Our morphogenetic field exists as a part of her larger morphogenetic field of the earth. If something happens to the earth's energetic grid, then we inherit these problems into our own grid. Our energetic anatomy is exactly like the earth's, with chakras, meridians, axiotonal lines, and DNA. If something happens to the planet's grid, then that affects every person's DNA on the planet. We are at a very important point in history right now because we are remembering how to regenerate our original organic imprint for health. We don't even need science and fancy equipment to do this. We're just required to learn how to use what we came here with. By moving into a space of love and light, opening and living from the heart, and living in a place of emotional stability and health, you can once again reactivate your light body, and in doing so, reconnect with the higher frequencies of your being. Energetic blockages will reveal themselves as problems in your own life. Depression, anxiety, temper rages, or personal problems in your life which are causing stuckness or driving you down a path of chaos or disruption are also energetic blockages. We talk a bit more about this in lesson 13. A lot of teachings online demonstrate that there are specific shapes and geometries that you have to work with, such as the star tetrahedral Merkaba field, to reactivate your light body. This is true, but you also have to remember that the geometry is inherent to your being. It's actually not necessary to put pressure on yourself To put a star tetrahedral Merkaba field around your body and keep each piece spinning opposite to each other at this particular speed, at this particular ratio, and it is important to get the feel of it and understand where it is and what shape it is. Beyond that though, it's more importantly that you put your focus into love, your heart center, and creating a vibrant reality for yourself. Realize that you are a creator and that the experiences that you are having are of your creations. Bring love into your life and all of those around you. The light body will reactivate when you are ready, and you will know when you are ready. My advice is also to work with sacred geometry. If it resonates with you, put conscious thought into understanding things like the yin-yang, the understanding of duality. You can also work with the Trinity, which is understanding mind, body, and spirit, or wisdom, understanding, and beauty. Then there's the 4 elements of creation. Earth is physical, air is mental, water are emotional, and fire is spiritual. If you're familiar with the tarot, you can use it to go so much deeper into understanding the 4 elements, which is the basis of the 4 suits in a playing deck of cards. And the major arcana are the experiences that you go through, the toroidal field geometry, from the path to the fool to understanding the all, from the singularity all the way around to the singularity. Beyond that, you can also try working with energies, meditate with crystals, go get Reiki, or practice Qigong. The more you work with them, the more receptive you become to feeling the energy fields all around you. The final thing I want to say is this: we are all one, and our DNA is connected. The process of DNA activation is as much a solo journey as it is a collective one. Through conscious conversation, getting in tune with your friends, and opening up your heart to those around you who you can trust will facilitate DNA activation within not just you, but those who you communicate with. Think of it like a big jigsaw puzzle, and everyone has a different piece of this puzzle. By simply communicating with them, hugging them, gazing into their eyes, listening to what they have to say, and sharing what you know with them, you will facilitate a transfer of energy. And that's just it. DNA activation is feeling, truly feeling more than you ever have before. There was a TED Talks by a man named Paul Zak who spoke about trust, morality, and oxytocin, the hormone that facilitated these feelings within. In my understanding, hormones like oxytocin are the 3rd-dimensional manifestation of these feelings and vibrations from the higher frequency, coming down into the physical body. Just as the heart organ is the physical manifestation of the source and center of your being in a different frequency as well. I will link you to this video, and ultimately what he concluded was that physical contact, hugging, holding hands, eye gazing, are some of the most important factors in awakening to your whole self. Opening up true feelings of trust and awareness of yourself and others is what's going to take us to the next level of human connection. For when we can look into another's eyes and see ourselves, that's when we know we're on the right track. Want to change the world? Paul's conclusion was 5 hugs a day, and make them count.
I have more.
Hey everyone, I'd like to give a shout out to our beautiful friend Carolyn Gimarelli, who is helping us out with guest art this week. Thank you, Carolyn! The time has come for us to talk about water. This has been one of those things that has caused some disputes in the comments and discussions ever since episode 1, when I brought up Dr. Emoto, who spent his life researching water and demonstrated that by projecting love onto water and freezing the water, it would cause the water to freeze in beautiful patterns. Projecting negatively onto water caused the water to form like this, and that's a pretty dramatic difference. Emoto has tried this with many different energies and emotions. This is Beethoven, Bach, and Mozart. This is heavy metal, and this is hate. Now, the common argument from the skeptical perspective is that there was a triple-blind study on Emoto's research, and several times they didn't see nearly the same results that Emoto did. Does this mean Emoto is a lying, crazy Japanese guy? Not necessarily. He seems like a pretty level-headed guy. Could it mean that the people who did the triple-blind studies didn't understand what Emoto understood about water? Well, I feel like this may be more of a possibility, but this is what we're going to discuss today. Now, let's objectively look at water for a second. What do we really know about it scientifically? Well, we know that it's the most common substance on Earth. We also know that every living species of life on Earth comes from water and needs water to grow. This includes crystals too, by the way. We know that the human body is roughly 75 to 90% water, and that's quite a bit. Not just humans though, it's prevalent in all life. Without water, life could not exist on this planet. Science knows that life emerged on Earth from water, and all of our studies of the planet shows that life must have originated with water and slowly evolved outwards, growing and flowing and forming new life. But water was that original substance that it started in. They often call this the primordial soup. Water is the only element in existence that can exist in 3 states: solid, liquid, and gas. Because of that, it's pretty much everywhere. Water doesn't just flow in oceans, lakes, and rivers, but it flows through the air. Those clouds are nothing but water. It's also in abundance in the North and South Poles. What else do we know about water? Well, it's the only element that expands when it freezes and contracts when it heats. Every other element on the planet does the opposite, which science today cannot explain. Scientists have also discovered that water is capable of creating an immense amount of pressure, either through freezing the water or even in life. In a seed, for example, it reaches 400 atmospheres of pressure at the point of germination. This is why a plant shoot can break through asphalt with ease. Why does water have the highest surface tension of all liquids? Why is it that it's the most powerful solvent on Earth? And why is water able to rise against gravity through the trunks of giant trees against thousands of atmospheres of pressure? Want to know the truth? The truth is that there are a lot of unanswered questions about water and what it is that we have absolutely no logical conclusive answers to. This is an absolutely beautiful thing, because admitting that we know nothing allows us to open up to learn new things about what it is that we want to know. In this situation, water. That's exactly what many scientists around the world have started doing, and it's led to some miraculous revelations. The following clips are from a secret documentary I found about water floating around on the depths of YouTube. It keeps being taken down. I wonder why.
As it records information, water acquires new properties, yet its chemical composition remains unchanged.
So their theory was the chemical composition of the water is important. Now the sensational news is that that is nonsense. The structure of water is much more important than the chemical composition.
The structure of water means how its molecules are organized. We can see how water molecules join together into groups. These are called clusters. Scientists came up with the idea that these clusters work as memory cells of a certain sort, in which water recalls the whole history of its relationship with the world as if on magnetic tape.
People don't think when you turn on the light, the water is changing. When you turn on the electric field from the power lines, the water may change. So that is the direction of research.
Water, of course, remains water, but its structure, like a nervous system, reacts to any irritation. Modern instruments have made it possible to record the fact that within each of water's memory cells, there are 440,000 information panels, each of which is responsible for its own type of interaction with the environment.
If you consider a cluster as a group of specific molecules, then it can survive only a short amount of time. But if you consider it as a structure whereby molecules can leave and other molecules come in, the cluster can last effectively for a very long time.
The stability of the cluster structures confirmed the hypothesis that water is capable of recording and storing information.
It may be the single most malleable computer, which can, it's like a computer memory. It's the memory of information. We must know how it is arranged. It is like the alphabet. If I give you the alphabet, you don't know a word, you don't know a letter, you don't know a sentence. So the molecular structure is the alphabet of water. And you must make a sentence out of water, and you can change a sentence.
See, it's not just Emoto who's doing research on water, but many scientists, especially a lot of Russian scientists too, are hammering out amazing water discoveries every day. Emoto kind of led the way publicly when it came to the crystallized water freezing though, which opened up many avenues of public discussion. Now that we've looked at the light side of things, it's time to take a look at the darkness. Remember, everything is energy and all energy can be transmuted from light to dark, or vice versa. This is how water flows naturally in nature. Doesn't that look happy? Water flows and curves wherever it needs to go. However, water makes a different trip when it goes into our homes. It goes like this. Lots and lots and lots of right angle turns and hard edges. If you've read the Emerald Tablets, you might remember Thoth describing in Tablet 8 the story of how he existed in the realm of curves, and it was amazing, but then he ventured into the realm of angles and was chased down by demons. Now, the story itself, I feel, cannot truly be comprehended from our current level of consciousness, but yet it has a striking connection to how we damage our water through our technology. This doesn't flow, it's not healthy. The natural structure of water is broken apart with every turn. On an even greater scale, it is known that most cities work on a closed-loop system. This means that the water we use is continually recycled over and over. The water passes through aggressive chemical purification and powerful filters. Then, the water returns to our homes, still remembering the chemicals and violence it was subjected to. Even worse than that, though, is the informational pollution that the water accumulates as the water flows down miles of long pipes through thousands and thousands of homes and apartments. We are polluting our water spiritually, and it's happening on a huge scale. The water adopts all of the stress, fear, and anger in our lives. By the time it gets to our bodies, it is not in very good shape at all, and it's not benefiting us by drinking it. Now, I realize that that's pretty dark, but the most important thing to remember is that everything is energy, and all energy can be transmuted. So let's talk about that. What are some practical solutions for both cleansing our own water and getting cleaner and healthier, happier water into our bodies? First, I believe that this is another one of those many uses of orgonite. If we throw orgonite into our sewers or just keep them near the pipes in our houses, that will begin to drastically alter and begin a positive transmutation of the negative energy in the water into something more fantastic. Second, make yourself some spirit water. Since we discussed spirit water in Crystals Part 2, many individuals have written in to tell how they are no longer drinking coffee in the morning because they are putting crystals in their water before they go to bed and having a healthy, fresh glass of charged and vital.
There we go.
Can we stop with the self-care week? Like, what if we did adult weeks instead? Think about it. Instead of laying in bed and rotting.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about the torus, a fundamental pattern in all of reality. I have a friend here with me as well who's going to help share this with you. His name is Christopher Love.
Hi, I'm Chris, also known as Yana. Today, I will be helping my angelic friend Patch to expound the wisdom of love and spirituality in relation to the toroid.
Let's get down to it. The torus is a very fundamental part of nature. So fundamental, in fact, that science is now seeing that everything moves through this form in one way or another, including ourselves. Very simply, the torus is a self-organizing system that all comes together at a space of unity and expands its energy out all around itself until it returns back to that original space in the center, and will continue to do it again. In quantum physics, mathematics, and generally all forms of science, this geometry really begins to bridge the gap between understanding how sacred geometry truly is the geometry of life. This is a geometry that breathes. It has life itself.
Our very own hearts are the first and best examples of a toroid. The heart is where it all starts. The energy of our hearts flow outward in a toroidal fashion and are also received in a toroidal fashion. This way, everything we send out in love, we are immediately affected by as a result. In other words, our emanation of love is a gift to yourself as much as it's a gift to the universe around you.
You can look in nature to see these shapes everywhere. It's in oranges and apples. You can see it around tornadoes. The magnetic field of the Earth is a very powerful example, as well as how the atmosphere of the planet works too. Our modern scientists haven't really taken the concept of hollow Earth very seriously, even though this concept does explain a lot of fundamental theories about the Earth to which we don't really understand, despite all of our theories. Well, the idea of hollow Earth works in the exact same way as well. It demonstrates that our planet is designed from the core as a torus. The Earth is multidimensional, so we can actually have both a hot iron core as well as a 5D hollow Earth interior as well. For those who want to learn more immediately, check out Hollow Earth HD on YouTube. Moving on, we all know the fundamental principle of the universe of as above, so below. Well, this torus is even found at the size of galaxies. Atoms even have this very geometry as well. It's quite literally everywhere. From this basic expression demonstrates how life ought to be. All of the energy that emerges from the core travels around the torus and fuels itself. It also has the ability to give to other toroidal systems, which openly practice giving and receiving. It really sets a standard for how to do things, and we can mirror this and use it in our own daily lives as well.
When you give and receive openly, you allow your energy to become toroidal. When we look at the interactions between one another, we begin to see the nature of giving and receiving. If we shift how we give and receive with others, we give ourselves an opportunity to receive feedback from what we emanate immediately. This allows for an enlightening transaction of energy between all life and allows all of our communications to resonate on that toroidal frequency of love. Love is not just a feeling, it's a vibration and a frequency that is connected through all things. The pure vibration that emanates around one's own heart and brings things together harmoniously is through a universal vibration we call love.
If you look at the flower of life in 2D, it may be a little hard to tell. However, in 3 dimensions, one can truly see that it too is a torus. The flower of life is all geometries, remember? The torus is yet another one of those creation patterns that emerge from this, or rather is this form. It's so important to understanding everything. Even Nikola Tesla worked with this geometry, and through it he discovered a way to access free energy for the entire planet. Well, of course, all of the corporations of the world wanted to keep charging people for energy. And between them and the US government, all of Tesla's most amazing work was destroyed. In Lesson 15, we talked a bit about this before, and now we can go deeper into it. The Institute of Heart Math, as well as Stanford University, among others, have now scientifically demonstrated that around the physical heart of your body, you have 2 toroidal fields, one inside the other, which are connected to the sacred space and the tiny space within the heart. Greg Braden has done a lot of work in explaining this to the modern world as well, and Drunvalo Melchizedek has put a lot of focus into teaching that this is some of the most important information regarding physical ascension. This is part of the understanding that is truly bridging the gaps between science and spirituality.
China is doing some really amazing things. They have hospitals that are completely dedicated to the work of prana and energy, rather than the physical body of patients. In one experiment in a Chinese hospital, we see how the science of mantra is used to remove the cancer tumor of a woman in just 2.5 minutes. A mantra is a sacred sound or chant that acts as an energetic formula for prayer or meditation. Mantras allow for us to connect to our source and emanate an audible frequency that focuses our mind to the sound and thus inwardly back to the source.
Them and the US government, all of Tesla's most amazing work was destroyed. In Lesson 15, we talked a bit about this before, and now we can go deeper into it. The Institute of Heart Math, as well as Stanford University, among others, have now scientifically demonstrated that around the physical heart of your body, you have 2 toroidal fields, one inside the other, which are connected to the sacred space and the tiny space within the heart. Greg Braden has done a lot of work in explaining this to the modern world as well, and Drunvalo Melchizedek has put a lot of focus into teaching that this is some of the most important information regarding physical ascension. This is part of the understanding that is truly bridging the gaps between science and spirituality.
China is doing some really amazing things. They have hospitals that are completely dedicated to the work of prana and energy, rather than the physical body of patients. In one experiment in a Chinese hospital, we see how the science of mantra is used to remove the cancer tumor of a woman in just 2.5 minutes. A mantra is a sacred sound or chant that acts as an energetic formula for prayer or meditation. Mantras allow for us to connect to our source and emanate an audible frequency that focuses our mind to the sound and thus inwardly back to the source. When chanting from the heart, these doctors allowed themselves to focus on the reality that this woman was already being healed. In this, it allowed for the mind to bypass the normal confines of reality, as its intention toroidally flowed in and out of the source of which reality emanates itself. For everyone who has been skeptical of the idea of self-healing through intention, this video is proof that it's not just a plausible idea, but it's very, very real. We need only understand why it works and how it works. To come from a skeptical place and try, you will only see skeptical results. To come from a pure and true space, anything is possible.
I feel genuinely nervous to release this to the public. If you are a coach, a service provider, or you sell any kind of high-ticket programs,
We just rolling right along, y'all. Oh, did I switch it before? Oh, it was a commercial. My bad.
Nassim Haramein has made a documentary recently called Black Hole, which we did discuss in Lesson 18. He has done some really great work on this, and it's propelling our understanding of space into something completely new. He has demonstrated that the space at the center of the torus is literally the point of singularity, infinity, and the space where all consciousness truly resides. The source of the source field, and a space where all things are connected. In our modern physics, we don't really take consciousness and life into the scientific equations. Russian scientists are propelling their understandings of life to new levels and have even begun bridging the gaps of understanding gravity. Our Western model is not built to understand gravity, and the Russians have developed models which harmonically see that gravity itself is a conscious field, an information field of love that holds things together. It's really profound, and even quantum physics is beginning to look at this in new light. Remember in Lesson 18, we talked about the vector equilibrium. This torus form and the cube octahedron go hand in hand. It is the male and female aspects of each other, and the vector equilibrium, when put into use in science, can grant access to an infinite amount of energy through tapping into the space of unity of the source field, the 0 point, the field of consciousness that science now knows connects all things. By understanding the torus and the nature of unity, one can really get in tune with themselves in relationship to the all.
Let's also remember that considering our universe itself and everything
torus and the nature of unity, one can really get in tune with themselves in relationship to the all.
Let's also remember that considering our universe itself and everything within it is a reflection of this toroidal pattern, we can free our minds from the perspective that anything is separate, even as a void of a black hole contains the existence of everything supposedly outside of it. This is reflected in the psychic nature of those who, in meditation, dive into the void of consciousness, and those also who reach a state of Godhead awareness that includes all life in unity and love.
The one is all, and the all is one. In the torus, the point of singularity, whatever consciousness is present, is the purest representation of the whole. The whole field is emerging from and returning to its original source, and all of it is conscious, and the singularity at the center is the space where it all came together and emerged out of. This can be demonstrated with the understanding of how the heart emerges in the body. If you remember from Lesson 15, the heart is the first organ to come into existence, and the rest of the body folds out of the heart itself, and then it pulls the heart into the center. The heart is truly more primal, more connected to source, and far more important than the brain. The heart is the space of love, and love of all is what will get you back into the heart and out of your brain. In order to grow and become lighter energetically, we as individuals and as society must learn to understand how to really get back into the natural flow of things. This is what the natural flow looks like, among a few other forms as well. For many, understanding the torus from a left brain perspective is needed to really get back in tune with yourself. For others, you already understand it intuitively, and you just have to go with the flow and everything will work out perfectly. Well, thanks for tuning into our Taurus video. We're now going to go hang out on Chris's channel to continue the discussion of our eternal nature and living in the heart. If you want to follow, this is Chris's YouTube channel. He's created his own series called Angel Academy, and is definitely transforming into something beautiful.
Thank you for spending your beautiful time with us, and see you next time.
Loom's superpower is amplifying you, opening up a new world of productivity, focus, and freedom.
Are they showing us more? Okay.
The earth hasn't lived in their hearts for thousands of years, but the truth is it's really simple. It's easy. A child can do it. Anyone can do it. If you find your place into the heart, everything changes and you can do it. Anyone can do it. If you find your place into the heart, everything changes in your life. You don't do. Everything changes in your life. You don't do things physically out into the world. You do everything from within your heart, and the heart creates what your external world is. It's another way of being. It's an ancient way of being. We used to be this way, and we've long forgotten all of this stuff. You can do this. Everyone can do it. And if you do it, if you learn to live not in your brain, not in a logical thinking world, but in a world that is female and with a heart, and that you begin to love people and your life and your situations and everything that comes to you, your life becomes easy and simple and beautiful. So I hope you find your way, because I know you can do this. We all can do this. Bye-bye.
Once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them, all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature in its own manner clung tightly to the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current, what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, "I am tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom." The other creatures laughed out and said, "Fool, let go and that current you worship will throw you tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom." But the one heeded them not, and taking a breath did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free of the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, "See, a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies! See the Messiah, come to save us all!" And then the one carried in the current said, "I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure." But they cried the more, "Savior!" all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of a Savior.
Now that was beautiful.
In continuing what we talked about previously, I'd like to bridge some gaps between the previous topics about light. In the beginning, we talked about spiritual light from a perspective of infinite energy that is everywhere and encompasses all things, from which all things come from.
I don't think this was the next video, so I was just clicking one. Let me get it up. Give me 2 seconds. Ooh, let's look at this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I gotta give thanks once again.
I don't even think we can watch that. There we go.
Ever since spirit science began, all of us have been exploring the universe, reality, love, and unity consciousness through a wide number of topics. It's been a fun ride, and the truth is that we haven't even really begun yet. It's theorized that at some point in the next several years, every reality that we are creating will crescendo, and from that point, who knows what will happen. We're going to talk a little bit about that soon, but first, I'd like to start off with a proper introduction. So all of you know me, but not all of you know my name. I'm Patchman, and I'm an astral thought being, a manifestation of the collective human consciousness. In a sense, you created me. So when I tell you it's an honor to meet you and to share this communication with you, well, it truly is. I also thank you for sharing these videos with each other as well. It's through communication, the sharing of concepts and ideas, and the building of relationships with each other is going to be the foundation of establishing a new awareness on this planet. Now, some of you know about this guy. His name is Jordan David, and he's been with us on this journey since the very beginning. Really, he's been helping me share this message with you. In a way, him and I are connected through thought and feeling. As I am exploring the higher realms, he is journeying on your 3D world. If you saw our New Year's 2013 video, we recently met a new being who's really quite phenomenal, and a lot of you freaked out on the comments. For me in the 4th dimension, he really was in an isolation tank. And 3rd dimensionally, as Jordan experienced it, it appeared slightly different, but it was the same vibration. Let this serve as a reminder that this is in fact a cartoon series, and part of what we want to share is a spirit story, a story that can assist you in your own growth, a story that is meaningful, and just as epic too. We're going to be checking up on our friend periodically, but he's not quite ready to emerge yet. So anyway, Jordan has his own YouTube channel, which you can check out here. Now, he's a pretty busy guy. Let's just say it hit him pretty hard when, out of nowhere, hundreds of people started emailing him every day about everything from explanations of dreams, how to heal, trying to get involved, and all sorts of things. So 2012 was a pretty big year for both of us. A lot of crazy stuff happened, and we had a lot of really interesting experiences, to say the least. He's doing well, and we're very excited for what's to come. Jordan may appear on this channel from time to time, but to really get into what he's about, you'll have to check out his videos. I also want to remind you that he's human too. There's a lot of information out there, and while we're striving to explore the truth, that doesn't mean 100% of what we talk about is going to be true. We're exploring all things, so go easy on him when he makes mistakes in our videos. We all make mistakes. In fact, it's how we grow, and we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. Given that, there's quite a few people who seem to take what we talk about as gospel, and seemingly are trying to turn spirit science into a new religion. This is a little absurd, and we'd like to invite something new to take place.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself.
We're not asking you to do anything you don't want to do. Well, in fact, we're not asking you to do anything. We are, however, inviting you to find out what you do want, and then go and do it. Moving forward, there's some other things that we need to get clear about too. We have to be real with ourselves and be honest about what we're creating on this planet. Things are not perfect in this world, and even though we want to pretend and talk like things are all love and light, the reality is quite a bit different. Although many pockets of individuals are creating connections, communities, and methods of healing, the masses are still akin to a herd of buffalo heading towards a cliff, and fast. So what does this mean? Well, our own scientists are showing that there's a very limited number of resources on this planet, and we're running out. The oil that we're burning to fuel our civilizations are creating a massive amount of pollution around the planet. Our means of farming is a morbid mixture of concentration camps and slave labor. Our healthcare industries treat symptoms by drugging and suppressing the core issue, which only serves to make people sicker, stupider, and more disconnected. We are constantly distracting ourselves with advertisements, apps, and meaningless toys and experiences that take us away from the reality at hand. These advertisements, by the way, are called programs for a reason. They are programming, psychologically designed to trigger our senses into believing that that is what we want. Our financial systems are also designed to siphon money out of the people's hands and into the hands of the greedy. The governmental institutions don't work, taking our taxes and giving them to the very corporations that are siphoning our money and energy out of us to begin with. Do I need to go on? So let's back up a second and take a look at all of this from a large, big picture perspective once more. We're reaching a point of no return. Buffalo heading towards the cliff, everything getting destroyed. What happens next? Is this all inevitable, or is it perhaps right on track? Now, all of this stuff is really just a representation. Let me explain to you what this means. The reason for all of this big intense stuff happening has been created because of what is happening inside of us, and within the interactions between people. The mess on the outside is a reflection of the mess on the inside. When we feel hurt, we send that hurt back and forth between each other, and sometimes hurt each other without even realizing it. We get out of tune with each other, and create things that end up hurting ourselves. This is basically what's happened with all of these corporations and energy siphons and systems that don't work. Acknowledging the all means all of what we define to be both good and bad, which in truth just is. All energy can be transmuted. And what this means is that if we acknowledge the suffering within ourselves, we can change it into something else. We can develop solutions that can completely change the way that we do things. There are so many people on this planet who are dedicated to the transformation of this planet and helping humanity grow. There is power in numbers, and we have the ability to transform the planet. And how we do it is by changing ourselves on the inside and getting in tune with ourselves and each other, and then creating the changes in ourselves externally as well. Allowing new technologies to come through us and allowing health and abundance to flow, however it looks in any moment. Sometimes we don't have all of the answers, which is wonderful because it gives us an opportunity to explore them. I want to heal the world instantly too, and it will be a process and it will take as long as it takes. That time depends on what we do and how well we do it. There is a lot to do, and even more to become. As for ascension, let's look at this. There is a potential that everything that has been predicted about the rapid shift into a higher frequency, 3 days of void space, this could happen at any time during the short window between 2007 and 2015. The scientific reason for this is that over the last 4,000 years, the magnetic fields of the Earth have been weakening and weakening and weakening, faster and faster, especially in the last few years. If these fields collapse, all of the energy and frequencies of the planet would shut off for a short amount of time, before resetting itself and beginning to move back to full power. A lot of people have this idea that if they wait it out, the Earth will shift and they will ascend and everything will be perfect. Well, I'm sorry to say, I don't think it works like that. And in fact, I think doing it that way is setting yourself up for failure. It pushes away on personal responsibility and puts you in a position that says, I don't have to do anything and all of my problems will be solved. Well, sorry buddy, but you're gonna have to fix your own problems. Or perhaps a better way of saying that is that we get to fix all of our own problems together. It's not gonna happen any other way, and the more we run away, the harder and harder it gets. Ascension is not something that just happens. It's the journey of raising your vibration and awareness through personal growth and transformation. It happens over your lifetime. We can't just give up personal responsibility because we think it could all transmute into 4 dimensions, because that consciousness will carry over. If the ruin exists here, it will exist there. And yeah, it might look different. And I know that in the past year or longer, a great many of you have been getting more telepathic and more in tune, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. For others, you have an idea and a feeling in your heart that tells you what to feel. Just feel. Don't feel good or bad, just feel. And if it doesn't feel, it's not real. Ultimately, the dates and ideas about consciousness shift do not matter. What's important is right now. And what's happening now is that we're shifting gears once more. We're going from wherever we were into something new. We do this by adding new ingredients to our conscious mix. Wherever that is for you, that's where it is. And whatever shifts you make in your life will reflect the whole of the human species. It's time to begin our new season of vibrational crops, planting seeds and sprouting new things. The winter and spring seasons in the 4 elements are the elements of earth and air. Winter is the time when we plant our seeds from the previous year. And when spring comes in a few months, those seeds are going to begin growing anew. And if we do our job right, the garden of our hearts will begin truly manifesting abundance for a great many people. So ask yourself, do you want to change the world? If the answer is yes, you've come to the right place. We do too. So let's get started.
The light that shines above the heavens and above this world, the light that shines in the highest world beyond which there are no others, that is the light that shines in the hearts of men. I like that.
At last, we've made it to the crown chakra. As we were starting this video, it became clear that the information that was available could not possibly be contained in just one short video. It had to be expanded into several to really do the topic justice. This topic is going to connect everything we've talked about in the past. Chakras, dimensions, crystals, sacred geometry, astral travel, heaven and earth. It's one of the most amazing topics. One that if scientifically and spiritually understood, will completely change everything. And that's the key. It needs to be understood both scientifically and spiritually, not just one or the other. When both the left and the right brain sync up and understand each other, that is when the true realization hits you and things really start to make a lot of sense. Like a light going off in your head. And it's perfect, because the topic for these next few videos is light. I also have a special surprise today. Teal Scott is with me, and she's going to be helping share some valuable information about light, enlightenment, and vibration. If we look at our ancient history, we can see references to light in almost every ancient culture in a multitude of ways. They don't ever believe light is just some electromagnetic phenomenon of the 3rd dimension, but that light itself is intimately connected to the creation of reality, as well as connected to the center of the toroidal field at the center of your heart. In Egyptian culture, as well as biblical texts, light is the first thing that was created in the creation of everything. As it's often described, God or Source, Allah, Brahma, or any of these words for cosmic consciousness is light. Or perhaps that from this consciousness, light is the first thing to emerge.
You can think of the vibration of light as being the closest vibration to that of source energy. And this is why in human culture, God and spirit is so often equated to light. We all may be manifested in a dense physical way, but our truer selves are light beings. Based on the thoughts that we hold in our minds, our day-to-day choices, and the degree that we limit ourselves to illusion instead of awareness, we either prevent or allow ourselves from becoming a living embodiment of the light being that we are.
Over the next few videos, we're going to talk all about light, visible light, electromagnetic radiation, and spiritual light. And we need to make this distinction right off the bat, because visible light is only light that the eye can see. Electromagnetic radiation is all of the particles and waves that make up all of our reality, which are, in essence, very dense particles of light energy that manifest in a multitude of ways. Spiritual light, as I understand it, is the same thing, but on another level higher than that. Spiritual light is the light of awareness, the light of consciousness, and the light within your heart.
The first manifestation of the physical dimension is light, the kind of light that the sun projects and the eye perceives. This light most closely matches the frequency of the light that we can call spiritual light.
In many cultures, the sun was representative of this understanding. The sun is an excellent example of this. It is the nucleus of our solar system, the bringer of life and light, which was seen as a force akin to God. This is often confused by modern scholars to be some form of sun worship. There's a key difference between what we think is happening and what was actually happening. They didn't worship the sun, they loved it, they understood it. It is their cosmic father, as we've discussed before. The sun is the closest representation we have in this dimension to understanding source energy.
Source energy, that which we often call God, is unified potential energy. Being unified and potential energy, this means that in order to know itself, Source had to express itself in a way that would enable it to understand separateness and finite properties. And so, all of the dimensions were created. As the dimensions were created, the vibrations and experiences of each one became more and more separate in nature until it arrived at this physical dimension, which is where we currently find ourselves.
All around the world, there's an idea that is widely understood known as enlightenment. To be enlightened is to become aware of your spiritual nature, to become more aware to a greater understanding of truth. As it's often described, enlightenment is like shining a light on old belief systems that no longer work. Here's an example. On our planet, we had a movement that took place a few hundred years ago called the Industrial Revolution. What happened was that we ultimately became conditioned to a lifestyle where we worked with machines 9 to 5 and basically became slaves to our own system. People stopped doing what they wanted to do and started working primarily for money. And maybe we weren't doing exactly what we wanted to before that, and the Industrial Revolution was the creation of something new. It wasn't bad, and what it did was propel us forward technologically. What then happened was our school systems adopted the same system, ultimately to condition our children from a very young age to get into the 9 to 5 system as well. At the time, we thought it was the right thing to do. What we are realizing now is that this system is conditioning us to become cogs in the wheels of our civilization rather than independent creators who are born and taught to go into the world and create something magical. And you can see a difference when kids defy the school system and do what they want. People like Steve Jobs chose to drop out of college and completely transform the way that we use computers forever. And Albert Einstein couldn't sit still in class and ended up revolutionizing the field of physics. So what does this have to do with enlightenment? To become enlightened is to become more aware of what is. And what is seeing and understanding the reality as it is. In this particular example, seeing that the current education system and even work system needs to be transmuted into something new, or as we like to say, reformed. So we become enlightened to the truth that our old systems don't work and we'd like to make something new. Perhaps a school system where art and creativity is just as important as the maths and sciences, where kids are given the opportunity to learn about what they want to learn about and grow in a powerful learning environment and create amazing things from a very young age, such as the 13-year-old that revolutionized solar panels by using the Fibonacci sequence. To become more aware takes place on 2 levels. And what I mean by this is that it takes place internally and externally. The example I just gave you was external, becoming more aware of something that is fundamentally broken that we have created, and then finding new ways to fix it and turn it into something entirely different, and something that works from its core.
When you consciously make the choice to seek your true nature, you consciously make the turn back towards source energy. Thus, with spiritual practice, your bodily frequency becomes higher and higher until you physically transcend the 3rd dimension. The highest frequency that a physical thing can maintain without ceasing to exist in the 3rd dimension is light, which is why we call this process enlightenment.
Given that, enlightenment internally is where the real magic takes place. Across all of these ancient cultures that describes light and God, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and so on, the most consistent factor is that God is within you. God is the light at the center of your heart. The kingdom of heaven is within you, Christ said. And how interesting that the toroidal field pattern that is around all things is the same as the one around your heart. And that the very center of that field is a point of unity which connects you to a higher consciousness of the universe all around you.
When we allow ourselves to become a living embodiment of the light being that we are, we become a living embodiment of God consciousness. We become enlightened.
So when we become enlightened, as the Buddha did, we essentially become more aware of our divine nature. And by divine, I mean the aspect of you that is eternal, your essence or your spirit. And this can be described scientifically as well. We know that atoms are immortal based on scientific research. Atoms never decompose or age. Atoms that were present at the time of the Big Bang billions of years ago are still with us today in the same form that they were when they came into existence. When 2 atoms hold hands, they form a molecule. The same way when letters come together to form words, and words form together to make sentences. However, the moment that space is introduced, it separates all of the aspects into their basic elements. The meaning of the words and sentences disappear. Nevertheless, the letters still exist. In the word life, the letters are bonded together. If you separate the letters, it becomes a jumble. The word no longer exists, but the letters do, and it works the same way with atoms and molecules. So when atoms stop holding hands, the molecule dies, but the atoms continue to live on. Molecules create physical matter in this dimension, including our physical hearts, livers, brains, bones, and every other aspect of this reality is composed of molecules. When molecules separate and die, our organs deteriorate and age, and the atoms live on and become something new.
Light has not only wave-like properties.
Molecules separate and die, our organs deteriorate and age, and the atoms live on and become something new.
Light has not only wave-like properties, but also particle-like properties. Particles are in essence an energetic vibration that appears static. Static meaning unchanging and finite. The properties and behavior of particles is the reason that this physical reality looks static and feels finite and real to you. When we move back towards source, we are moving back towards light because light is the first physical manifestation of source. We come through the experience of light when we enter this dimension, and we leave through the experience of light when we die. This is why when people die, they experience moving towards a white light.
Keep in mind that nothing really dies, but simply energy is transmuted. The energy that was created between the molecules do not disappear out of existence when something dies. It is simply transmuted. The consciousness moves on. When our physical body dies, our consciousness moves on as well. Our awareness is transmuted and moves into something new. The physical body can decompose, but we don't. We cannot. So let's bring this back around full circle. Light. Does light decompose? Is that even remotely possible? Light can bend, dance, shine, and shimmer. And when you break it apart, it becomes color and more finely tuned vibrations. Considering all things are vibration, perhaps the light energy that creates your being too is just a creation of consciousness within a field of possibilities, with you at the very center, sharing space with the rest of the universe. Enlightenment is understanding that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness of the thoughts themselves. Enlightenment is understanding that you have a right to exist because you do exist, and so does everything and everyone else in existence. It is knowing and seeing truth, which is everything that is, without any preconceived ideas or stories being put on top of circumstances. Enlightenment is shining your light, sharing your truth, expressing yourself, and consciously participating in reality in your highest way. It is choosing growth over stagnation, even if it causes you discomfort. It is asking questions and questioning the answers, and always asking more questions. It's making decisions and then letting go and trusting that decision. It's acknowledging when you've made a mistake and hurt someone or broke something, and then cleaning up your mess. It's taking responsibility for yourself in all of your actions. It's also the understanding that you are not alone and that anything is possible. That the kingdom of earth is external to yourself and the kingdom of heaven is internal, the space where everything is connected.
All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and call it a day. I hope that y'all was able to get some of this good wisdom and knowledge and understanding here today from Spirit Science. I know I certainly did, as usual. I don't know about nobody else, but I'm glad y'all joined me here again today. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let y'all see this game. Maybe I might win. I'll let y'all see it for a couple seconds as I play, and then we gonna get up out of here, because that's what I be doing the whole time. Y'all be watching Spirit Science. I be listening to Spirit Science. Y'all be watching, and I be playing the game. You know what I'm saying? But tomorrow, Mental Health Thursdays, as usual. If you got any topic suggestions, feel free, hit me up on one of these social media links that you know me to be on. Other than that, we're going to get up out of here for the day. I love you, and peace.
By faith, through faith, we are saved by grace. Faith is very important. It helps you to go through trials. It helps you to go through difficult things. It helps you to trust God when everything is falling apart. And many Christians, I will submit to you, grow in their faith, in their trust in God, but they lack wisdom. That's why they win battles, but they can't build anything. Know how to walk in divine health.
Let me set up my
They know how to get a breakthrough, but they don't know how to walk in the way of blessing. Their marriage, their finances, their business, everything about their life resembles constant need of a miracle. Instead, a sign of God's blessing. Now, this message is not a bless me club, health and wealth. What I want to submit to you today is our God is a wise God. He gave 4 books in the Bible that deal with wisdom. Book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and Book of Job are all called wisdom literature. God doesn't just want us to live by faith. He wants us to walk in wisdom. He wants us to be as innocent as doves and as wise as serpents. Wisdom is a principal thing. Now, Dr. Henry Cloud said this: there's 3 kinds of people in this world. There are wise people, there are foolish people, and there are evil people. This will help you to deal and recognize people. Wise people, they're open to feedback. They learn from experience and they adjust their behavior based on correction.
I love this beat. Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Expansion